Hello, everybody. Happy marvelous Monday. I hope that your holiday was great. I hope that your holiday weekend was well. Excuse me, let me take off some of this my noise maker I have here. So listen, guys, I'm excited today. We are talking about insurance. Um, what landlords and tenants should know about insurance. And so today, I'm sharing this story, true story. I'm sharing a situation where over the holiday a very tragic story came across my desk. A family lost everything because their home went up in smoke. Um, a small fire started out in the kitchen, and it turned out to be one of the worst Thanksgiving holidays they ever experienced because they lost absolutely everything in the fire. And so the question came about as it pertains to insurance. Who's responsible? Who's supposed to have coverage? And so today we're going to discuss that. Many of you know that this is what I do each and every Monday. And if this is your first time joining me, let me just say thank you and welcome. I'm Karissa Spann. I am the landlord and tenant coach. This is what I do each and every Monday, right here on my Facebook or my YouTube channel. My only goal is to share information for the whole rental community to help landlords as well as tenants. So if you are not a landlord or a tenant, please, in addition to liking this broadcast, please share it with someone else who is either a landlord or a tenant. All right. I am always interested to know where my viewers are tuned in from. So please let me know in the chat box where you're watching from. And I do that because I want to know the jurisdiction so that I can share information for you that will be helpful, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. Okay. So don't be a stranger. Say, hey, girl, hey, in the chat box. Let me know where you're tuned in from. I'm going to take a few moments to acknowledge some people who's here today. Hey, Jody, happy, marvelous, magnificent Monday, sir. All right. Thanks, Pete. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, Pete, as always. All right, Pete, you said, did they have renters insurance? That's a good question. And Pete, that's exactly what we are discussing today. Thanks, Jody. That's right, Pete. Hey, girl. Hey. So listen, I want you, if you have not already checked out the description. So we are talking about insurance, what landlords as well as tenants must know, what you must know. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for tuning in, beautiful. I do appreciate you. Hey, Sam. Okay, YouTube is in the building. Happy, magnificent Monday, Sam. All right, so we're talking about insurance. Who's supposed to have it, what it is, and what does it cover, and how much it costs. We're going to cover all of that today. So if you have questions or comments, go ahead and drop it in the comment section. I definitely want to acknowledge you. Hello, Vanessa. How are you, big sis? I love you, sis. All right, so again, if you have questions or comments, I want to make sure that I am answering your questions today. Don't be a stranger. All right. I want to make this as interactive and user friendly as possible. All right. If I am going a little too fast, please stop me and let me know because I want to make sure that I'm covering as much information as possible. I have viewers who tune in each and every week. Some are in the DC metropolitan area, some are in New York, some are in Chesapeake, Virginia area, some are in South Carolina. I have a wide range of viewers, and so I want to make sure that I'm answering as many questions as possible. All right, Vanessa, you are a landlord in Howard County. Thank you so much for that. Pete, I see your comment. You said you pay $11 a month with Allstate. Listen, Allstate is one of those companies that I refer people to, and I hear a lot of people are using Allstate as the insurance company. Hey, Tanya, thank you so much for tuning in from Oxon Hill. Tanya, thank you so much. Karen is a landlord in DC. They're tuning in from the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. YouTube is representing today. So I want to share some tips for tenants. Also want to share some information for landlords. So I'm going to start out with landlords first today. And if you have any comments, let me know. If you do have renters insurance, what company are you using as a landlord? Go ahead and drop that in the comment section. I saw that Pete said he uses Allstate, but who needs insurance? I had a question from a young lady to me like graduate Joy. She is purchasing investment property. And so she reached out. She had a question about landlord insurance versus owner's insurance. Okay. So as a landlord, who needs to have insurance? Great question. And so here's my response to you here. Landlord insurance is also called rental insurance. It's a policy that all landlords should have. And so here's the thing. If you are renting property, if you're the landlord, if you are a new real estate investor, if you are the property manager, please make sure that you have insurance to cover your business. It is an asset. Always protect your asset. Okay. Make sure that you have insurance. Make sure that it covers all of your needs in the event that worst case scenario, something happens. All right. So, one of the things I love to do is to play devil's advocate. I always like to think about the worst case scenario. Certainly, we never want to experience the worst case scenario, but we want to prepare for it. So, it's better to have things that you may never need versus needing it and not having it. All right. So, landlord insurance is a policy for people who rent their property. They rent you're renting your property out to other people, and a lot of small landlords. When I say small landlords, meaning that you don't have more than 50 units, right? Maybe you have 20 or below. That to me is considered a small landlord. And I recognize that sometimes when people are just getting started in real estate or the rental property business, they don't really think things through. They don't really think about the need. And so this is why I do what I do each and every Monday. All right. So landlord insurance, it is not required, but it can definitely be in your best interest to have it in the event that something comes up. Listen, I have clients, I have colleagues, they've been in the rental property industry for a long time and never had landlord insurance. They have homeowners insurance, which is tied into their mortgage, but they don't have landlord's insurance. And I get it because when you get or when you purchase a landlord policy, typically it does cost a little more. So let me just go ahead and say that because I don't want you to think that is going to be cheap. All right. So Sam, I see your comment. Please let me know if you are having a challenge hearing me. All right. Okay. So Tanya, you say that you have State Farm insurance. Thank you. All right, so now let me go to my next um, tip to answer another question. All right, for landlords, I'm still sharing information for landlords, and then I'm going to get into information for the tenants. Okay, so what is covered with landlord insurance? And some of you may already know this, but I have some people who are new, who are just getting started in real estate, and they don't have a clue on what to do, what insurance they're supposed to have. So, what is usually covered with landlord insurance is this: you get protection against financial protection against natural disasters. You get coverage for fire and water damage. Okay, so when it comes to fire, because of a lot of the new codes now, fires have become um, rare, right? It's like, well, not as frequently, but it is an issue, right? So when it comes to fire and water damage, you definitely want to have a policy in place because most of the fires that are now coming about with what I've seen and on the news, they're creating situations and they're really creating problems for owners who didn't have policies in place that could have possibly protected them, right? So it's not just destroying property, but in many cases, it's a total loss, right? And so because we don't want our business to go up in smoke, again, it's a rental property, but it is a business, right? And many of you who've been following me, you know that my philosophy is very clear. Very clear, very simple. If you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby. So when it comes to insurance, please make sure that you have enough coverage to cover fire and water. Now, fire is one thing, water is something different. So when it comes to water, what are some problems that can come about, Pete, that will create a problem? And if a landlord doesn't have it, they'll be up a creek without a paddle. Anybody. Pete, I know that you are in the industry, but Pete, can you think of an example of where something could happen at the property to create some sort of situation with water where an owner will have to use their insurance policy. Anybody can chime in. Let me know in the chat box. Let me know in the chat box. I want to see, I want to hear, I want to know from my landlords, where are you with your knowledge about issues and things that could go wrong. Now, YouTube, I know many of you are in the Housing Providers Association, and you probably have heard some of the webinars or the meetings that I've conducted. Give me some examples of issues that will create some sort of water damage where you have to, as a landlord, use your insurance policy. Tanya, you said pipe burst in the wall. Absolutely. And we know that water causes issues. An issue that water can cause is mold. Absolutely. Vanessa, you get it. All right, Sam, you said, how do you determine how much landlord insurance is needed? That's a great question. It just depends on what it is you're trying to cover. Pete, you said a pipe burst. Absolutely. Hey, Alex, thank you so much for tuning in, Alex. We need to chat this week. I did receive your message, Alex. The sump pump might back up. Absolutely. Vanessa, you said flooding. Okay, so you all get it. Some people don't. All right. And here's the thing, all of those answers are true. Broken pipes, appliances leaking are the most common and overall the most expensive property damage for rental properties. So I know that some people did not know that. Hey, lady, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. That's my best friend. That's my bestie. She is awesome at what she does. She is a housing professional, and she does mobile notary. Lady, put your information in the chat box. I have people who are watching in the DC metropolitan area who could use your services. All right, so let's go to the next thing. We're talking about coverage. What is covered with landlord insurance? You get coverage against legal liability. Here is why this is so important. This is going to be so important. Pete, you said some people leave their homes for the holidays and they turn the heat down. Old basements, they get cold quick. Absolutely. Kathy, you said water heaters. Absolutely. Thank you, lady. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so when it comes to coverage, now we're talking about coverage against legal liability. Here's what happens. Lawsuits happen, right? So liability protection, it covers the cost of defending you and settling claims from tenants and their guests for injuries sustained on your property. But here's the thing. I shared a segment a couple of months ago where a prospect sued a landlord. They did not occupy, they never lived on the premises. They were a prospect and they ended up suing a landlord for fair housing discrimination. So you want to have insurance protection because you never know how things could impact you. So make sure that you are setting your business up. And again, it is a business. And even if you just have one rental property, if you're just getting started, please listen to this information that I'm sharing with you today. Listen and listen to what I'm saying and look at some of the comments that are coming in from other landlords who have been in the industry much longer. Okay. So you want to have this protection. You get also protection against tenant injury. The worst thing that can happen is a tenant, a prospect, an applicant to get injured on the property and you don't have enough insurance to cover it. Somebody has to pay that bill. So if you have insurance, it will cover that. Now, many, many years ago, I got my real estate license in 2007. I was showing a rental property and something happened where another agent came in. They brought one of their clients in to tour the property. And just as I was leaving out, I had finished touring the property with my client and we were leaving out. The other agent who was coming in, something happened and their client tripped up over, I think it was a hole in the floor. It was a very small hole, but that client's heel, it got stuck in the hole. She ended up twisting her ankle. I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to witness it. So I kept walking. We just left out. I didn't want to witness it. I didn't want to be a party to it. I don't know if that homeowner had insurance. Probably did. I don't know. I don't want to assume, but I'm sharing that for this cause and this reason. things will happen. And people visiting, they could be guests, they could be tenants, prospects, whoever. They have a right to sue. So please make sure you have insurance in place. Insurance protection can keep you from getting stuck with the cost of medical bills if a tenant or a visitor, their guest, gets injured on your rental property. So please make sure you have insurance coverage in place. What else is covered? This is also covered. This is an addendum. You can add this to your insurance policy. It protects you against riot and civil commotion. So we know for many jurisdictions that are in like urban cities where there are a lot of riots, there are a lot of protests, for instance, in Washington, D.C., when your property is damaged or destroyed, when you have insurance in place, it will cover that. It will also cover vandalism and theft. This is coverage that is available for landlords. I hope that you are taking notes today for those of you who are not as knowledgeable, for those of you who do not have insurance coverage. These are some things that I promise you that if you just pay a few extra dollars a month, a few hundred a year extra, this could save you thousands of dollars. Okay. All right. What type of property is covered? I'm getting ready to go into that next. I do want to share Alicia Robinson's information. She is a mobile notary, guys, in the DC metropolitan area. So if you need mobile notary services, Alicia Robinson with this pen notary. Lady, do you have a website? Can you please put that information in the chat box? I want to make sure that people have your information. And would y'all please do me a big, big favor? Support Ms. Robinson. This is my best friend. We've been friends for years. She is professional. She is awesome at what she does. And landlords, real estate investors, when you go to closing, you have documents that you need notarized in advance. Please look her up. Okay. Do me that favor. Tell her that I sent you her way. Hey, Charlotte is in the building. Thank you so much for tuning in. Lynette. Okay. So this is the website. Please go to With This Pen Notary if you are in need of notary services. She's mobile. She will come to you. Very proficient, very professional. So before I go to my next coverage for landlords insurance, let me answer this question here. Is there a difference between landlord insurance versus home insurance, or is there a difference? Great question, Kathy. There is a difference. Yes, there is a difference. And usually landlord insurance is going to cost you a little more because it does provide a little more coverage. Your insurance company recognizes that it is a business because you don't actually live in the property. You want to make sure that it's covered. All right. So please contact an insurance agent. Let them know what type of property you have. And Kathy, I know that you and your husband, you have multiple properties. And I know that this question doesn't pertain to you, but there is somebody who needs to know that information. There is somebody who has the same question. So thank you for asking that. Okay, lady, you are licensed in Maryland. Okay, thank you so much. You're welcome, sis. My pleasure. You know, I got to look out for my bestie. All right, so what type of rental property can be covered for landlord's insurance? This is what I'm getting ready to get into now. All right, here is the answer to that. Single family homes, multifamily homes, apartment buildings, repair, restoration. So let me pause here because vacant or renovation property, you can have coverage on your vacant property in the event that you have, for instance, I have a friend who's watching, has rental property in Baltimore City in Maryland. And things happen in Baltimore. They go in, they steal stuff, they vandalize it, they steal the copper pipes and all of that stuff. You want to make sure that you have coverage in place that can handle that. All right. Condos, manufactured or mobile homes, all of this can be covered under landlord insurance. Okay. Again, if you have questions, hey, Faye, thank you so much for tuning in for my YouTube channel. If you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment section. I'm now going to share information for tenants because I want tenants to understand that when it comes to renting property, I strongly recommend to all of my tenants to please get renter's insurance. Now, just depending on the jurisdiction, It may not be a requirement. For instance, in Washington, D.C., please hear me, my D.C. landlords. In D.C., you cannot require a tenant to have renter's insurance. You cannot require it. And so know what the law says. You can, however, strongly recommend that tenants have insurance. But you cannot, in some states, in some cities, you cannot make it a requirement. So please make sure that you know what the law says, and make sure that in your lease that you put that information in there, that you strongly recommend that tenants obtain renter's insurance. Okay. And if they choose not to, make sure that in your lease, and if you need help with the lease, you know I'm your girl, I got you. Make sure in your lease you put a clause in there saying that the tenant recognizes, if the tenant refuses to get renter's insurance, they recognize, understand, and or accept that the owner's insurance does not cover their personal belonging, their guest belongings, or any of their rental property. That's going to be so important to have it in writing, because if something comes up, which is why I'm sharing this segment today. A story happened where a family, they lost everything in the fire. They looked to the landlord to replace all of their things. And the landlord is like, screw you, my insurance don't cover you. And so the tenant was very upset. If you can imagine, they lost everything. They lost time. They lost all of their precious time, possessions that they had over the years, things that they just cannot get back. Sometimes things cannot think you cannot replace keepsakes, family photos, picture albums, and things of that nature. Those things you can't get back. And so this family, they were extremely upset. They were heartbroken, and the landlord was gracious enough to pay for a hotel for them. But the landlord told them, listen, my insurance won't cover your furniture or your clothing and your shoes and your computer and all of your things, your jewelry and all this stuff. It's just gone, right? And so the family, obviously, they're at a great loss because they did not have renter's insurance. And so this is why I'm sharing information. So here are my tips for tenants. What is renter's insurance? People are asking, well, Karissa, I'm a tenant, but what is renter's insurance? Is it a requirement? In DC, it is not a requirement, but it's strongly recommended. All right, so before I get into my suggestions and tips for tenants, let me go to the comments that have come in. Hello, Cecilia. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Absolutely. Please make sure, I agree with you, Cecilia. Please make sure that it is in the lease. Make sure that it's clear. Make sure that it is in writing. Many of you know, if you've been following me, my lease package is no joke. My lease package is legit at least 61 pages long. I'm very detailed. I'm very thorough at what I do. And I do that because I believe in treating it like a business. Listen, I've been in property management. I've been in the industry, in the profession for well over 28 years. From being a property manager, being a property management educator, I teach property management for one of the local universities. I do training and coaching for landlords as well as tenants. I want to make sure that I'm providing value to the entire rental community. All right. Hey, Perline, thank you so much for tuning in from ATL. Atlanta is in the building. Thank you, Perline. Okay, Pete, you said insurance equals peace of mind. Absolutely, Pete, you get it. It's peace of mind for landlords, but it's also, Pete, listen, it's peace of mind for tenants as well, right? It goes on both ways. It goes both ways on both sides of the aisle. It's definitely good to have. Absolutely. Okay, so Cecilia, you said been there, done that. Warning was ignored. Please don't ignore the red flags. Please make sure that you are taking notes. Even if you have made mistakes in the past, go ahead and make the corrections. Okay, please give us the language for renters insurance for leases. Okay, so Faye, I have a whole page, almost a full page of language that I put in my lease clause. So Faye, if you would do me a favor, email me, and I will send you what I have, because it's going to be too much to type in a chat box, but I will definitely send you that. All right. Pete, you said my lease package is 60 pages long. No, Pete, you was one page off. My lease package is at least 61 pages long. All right, Pearline, you pay $5 a month with car insurance with State Farm. So, Pearl, that's good. Now, I'm going to get into the cost shortly for tenants. Karen, you said, are there programs to subsidize the rental insurance costs for low income tenants? I don't know that there are. Let me take that back. It depends on there are programs available. There are programs available that will subsidize it. So I worked in a rental community where I managed, I think it was 271 units in DC. And when they first came in, they had a choice, they had an option to subscribe to the program that owner had for that rental community. So yes, there are programs available. I don't have a list of them, but I will follow up. As a matter of fact, I'll probably do a part 2 so that tenants can have that information. But it has to be something in many cases, and usually it's something that the tenants will have in place. I'm sorry, the owners will have in place for the tenants, but then there are also programs that the tenants can look up. So that's a great question. I was not prepared for that question, but I will definitely answer that next week because I want tenants to know there is help available for you. Lady, you said tailor your lease to your state and know the laws. Absolutely, which is why I subscribe to a software that is knowledgeable and familiar with the laws in every jurisdiction in the United States. So I have rental property, I manage property in multiple jurisdictions, and from one state, one city to the next, things are going to be different. The laws are going to be different. The laws will not be the same. Absolutely. I get it. Okay, so now let me go to my information for tenants. What is renters insurance? It's a policy that can cover you and your things against theft, water backup, damage. Listen, I have had so many tenants that complain about water damage, something overflowed, mold, mildew, all of that stuff. Renters insurance will protect you. It will help you in those situations. It helps in certain natural disasters, bodily injuries, and much, much more when it comes to rental property. And so it doesn't matter if you're a tenant and you're renting an apartment, you could be renting a house, a dorm. Renters insurance is strongly recommended to protect your belongings, your space in the event that something happens. I promise you that it will save you a lot of headache. It'll save you a lot of heartbreak if you have renters insurance and something happens, because that money, it may not be able to replace the memories, but at least you'll have some sort of financial cushion or backing that can help you if you have to replace these type of things that's damaged by accidents. All right. So next, I'm going to get into okay. So Tanya, you said you have one unit. How do you obtain property manager? Can you hire me? Tanya, we can chat offline. I have quite a few people from my team who's watching who can definitely assist you. Tanya, I just need some more information. What area are you in? I can definitely help you with that. All right, so let me get into um, whether or not renters insurance is right for you. Okay. So I've already told you what it covers. If you live in a single family, if you live in a townhouse, all of that, right? But here's the thing. If you are renting property that does not belong to you, understand that as a tenant, the owner's policy does not cover you, your belongings, your guest belongings. So if you want to protect your belongings, then renters insurance is definitely the best thing for you. So let me just say that. And so here's another thing. Some landlords and property management companies may require it. It just depends on the jurisdiction. So if it is a requirement, then please be prepared. Do your research, do some homework in advance before you sign a lease. Maybe contact some insurance companies to say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about renting a single family home. I'm thinking about renting a condo. I'm thinking about renting an apartment. And you tell them the location. They'll give you a quote. Okay. All right. So here is what renters insurance will cover. It will provide coverage for you for your belongings from damage, such as fire and smoke, vandalism, theft, and some weather-related incidents too. I had a tenant who, okay, so let me just pause. Let me just take a deep breath because I know that some people are going to give me the ugly eye when I say this. All right. I've had a couple of tenants from hell. Okay. And tenants from hell. Let me describe what that looks like. Okay. Let me just also state that I'm a woman of the cloth. So I let me just bring balance to that. But tenants from hell, they wake up on the wrong side of the bed. They create issues for no reason, just because. It's okay. It's their business, right? I mind my business. At the end of the day, I don't treat it like it's a hobby. I treat it like a business, meaning that I don't wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm not getting all in my feelings because people are having a bad day. People will have a bad day, whether they rent, whether they own, whether they're walking by, whether they're driving by. People will have a bad day. So let's just agree on that. But I've had a couple of tenants from hell. One in particular, every day she woke up. Now, she lived in an apartment building that I was managing, and she complained every single day about smoke coming into her apartment. Now, I have a heart for people. I do. Let me state that. I do have a heart for people. Okay. But in having a heart for people, I also must use common sense, and I must also use professional and sound judgment. Okay. So this tenant, she complained every day that smoke was coming into her apartment from the neighbors to the left of her, from the neighbors to the right of her, from the neighbors that was above her and beneath her. So what she ended up doing was she pulled the carpet up from the floor. I'm not making this up, true story. She pulled the carpet up from the floor in the bedroom of her son's room as well as her bedroom, and she put duct tape around the base of the wall. Sorry about that. So after she pulled the carpet up, she put this ugly gray duct tape around the floor, right around the base of the floor. She complained that the carpet would no longer stay on the floor. So I'm like, well, you pull the carpet up. So if it's not staying up, it's not because it's our fault, is because you pulled the carpet up. Stop pulling the carpet up. So she requested that we replace the carpet. She requested that we paint the wall. She requested that we change the filter once a week. This lady had so many issues. She began to call the inspection department. She complained that smoke was coming in and that the landlord, that we were not trying to stop the smoke from coming into her apartment. She said that it was causing anxiety issues for her and her son. So here's what I did. As soon as I had another rental available, let me just back up. First of all, I did apologize. I told her, I understand your complaint or your concern. We've had other residents who've complained about smoke. And here's how they allowed us to handle the situation. And so I gave examples of tenants that I've helped, and I helped to mediate and resolve issues in the past. And so nothing I said worked. Nothing. Listen, nothing was good enough for this woman. And so she complained that we were not doing enough. We offered to give a concession, a partial concession on her rent. So when I had another vacant rental available for her, I gave her an option to move to that apartment. Well, she didn't want to do that. She wanted me to install ceiling fans. She wanted me to pay for tint on the windows. I mean, the list just kept going on and on and on. It was really bad. And so she finally decided to move out. And that was the best, boy, that was the best day of that tenant being there. That was the best day. Because this was a tenant from hell. And I think she just woke up every day on the wrong side. She complained she was staying outside the door, yelling and screaming that we were not doing anything. We didn't care about her. We were not taking her concerns seriously. And I'm like, lady, listen, every time you call, every time you send an email, we are responding. My team is responding. We could not jump through hoops fast enough. And because of that, she contacted, like I said, the inspector's office. She complained. So they came out and they confirmed that, she was just a little touched. She was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that's her business. People have a right to be touched. If that's, hey, listen, whatever floats your boat. If you choose to be cuckoo, doesn't matter who you are. That's your business. I'm going to mind my business. Okay. That doesn't work for me. So, but in any event, I share this to say, when it comes to renting property, if you are a tenant, and although I'm joking, let me just get really serious with this. Get yourself renter's insurance, because a landlord don't have to do all of what I've done. Sometimes I will go above and beyond where the budget permits me to do so for tenants to kind of resolve situations. But all landlords don't have that flexibility. It is not in every landlord's budget. So as a tenant, please hear me when I say this. It is not the landlords, it is not the owners, it is not the property manager's responsibility to take care of these things for you. If you are smoking, whether it's in your place or your neighbor is smoking, it's not the owner's responsibility to take care of those things. So please go ahead, get yourself some renter's insurance. On average, renter's insurance for residential tenants could be somewhere like $14 a month, maybe $12 a month. It just depends on what coverage you get, how much coverage you think is needed. But go ahead and get yourself some quotes so that you will know in the event that you need it, it's better to have it versus needing it and not having anything in place. Okay, so it also protects you financially if a visitor comes to your property and gets injured. So let's say as a tenant, and this does happen, someone comes over, you guys have a party, they fall, they trip up, and they injure themselves in your place. It's in your home that you're renting. You have a lease, you have a contract. You are legally responsible. And so if you have renter's insurance, it could cover that. So please make sure that you understand the coverage that is available for you. It covers personal property, things that are broken. If, let's say, somebody breaks into your place, it's Christmas time. Y'all know stuff happens, especially in low income, low to moderate income communities. Actually, it happens everywhere. People break in, they see things that may be desirable. They steal TVs, they steal electronics, they steal cell phones, they steal clothes and shoes and jewelry. They steal hats and glasses and watches and all that crazy stuff, right? And it could be heartbreaking, especially when people work hard for the things that they have. And so when you have renter's insurance and somebody breaks in, there is coverage available that will protect you, because an owner is not going to pay for things that are stolen out of your place. Renter's insurance, it covers liability and medical payments. Let's say someone slips and falls on the floor. Okay. I have a tenant who, for whatever reason, does not sweep, she does not mop. I think that this lady has every spot from the day that she moved in at least 12 years ago on her floor right now. She never cleans. Let's say there's a spill of grease, of oil, maybe some vegetable oil on the floor, right? Somebody comes in and slips up on the floor. They can sue you as a tenant. They absolutely can do that. If they injure themselves in your rental property where you live at, they can sue you. So please understand what renter's insurance can cover and how it can protect you. All right. It can also cover additional living experiences. We talked about the pipe burst. This will help you pay for temporary housing. I know that tenants don't really like to hear that owners are not responsible for temporary housing costs, but it is a fact. Landlords are not required to pay for your housing if a pipe bursts and you have to be relocated. It's a good gesture. A kind-hearted landlord will, but listen, I have colleagues of mine, and I know some are watching, they won't do it. They may pay for one night or 2 nights, but they'll say, I'm not doing that. And they will not pay a penny. And who's to say they're right or wrong? This is what renter's insurance will cover. All right. Personal property replacement. Things that are broken into, things that are stolen out of your place, out of your car. Get yourself some help. Get yourself some insurance so that in the event that any or all of these things happens, you'll have coverage that will protect you. Okay, so let me go to the comment section. Okay, so Tanya, you said you have a semi-detached townhouse in DC and you have a tenant from hell. So Tanya, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. This resonates well with you. Pete, you said Jesus said, turn the other cheek. You ran out of cheeks. Listen, I promise you, sometimes I don't know, Pete. I do my best. Hey, D, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, Fails, you said, what does tent have to do with smoke? Listen, going back to that tenant from hell that I had, I don't know what tent had to do with anything with the smoke that was coming in, but the tenant asked that we pay for tent on the windows. I don't know what that was about, but people will ask for anything, whether it makes sense or not. Doesn't make sense, didn't make sense to me or my team, but maybe it made sense for the tenant. In any event, the tenant is long gone. How you doing? All right, Pearline, you said DC is less depending area and more in Georgia. So DC is always, until the laws change, DC is always going to be one of those jurisdictions that is pro tenant. Um, so the laws are strongly in favor for tenants in DC. Now, DC is not the only area like that, but DC is one of, I know I'm going to get in trouble when I say this, but DC is one of the worst areas to have rental property in. When you are self-managing, when you're a small landlord, and or you're not as knowledgeable with landlord and tenant laws. It's so easy to get tenants in DC and in other jurisdictions that's pro tenant, but it's hard as hell to get them out. And that's the sad reality. So I'm having conversations with city council, um, hoping that we can bring about change, because a lot of landlords who are watching, especially on the YouTube channel, landlords that are in some of the organizations that I'm a board member and part of, a lot of these landlords, they have issues with the laws and they're working hard to try to get these laws changed, because unfortunately it's not going to get any easier. And especially since COVID, the laws have changed, which is making it really hard for landlords to get rid of tenants. Now, in some places, they are evicting. And I know that there was a question about the stay, if the stay has been lifted. Listen, landlords are starting to take tenants to court. They're starting to file the paperwork for court cases. So please make sure that you speak to a knowledgeable landlord and tenant attorney, because here's the thing. I do not share legal advice. I don't publicly share legal advice. I am not an attorney. I can help guide you, but I do share the industry's best practice. Now, if it's something that I can work with you on offline, I would definitely do that, but I do not share publicly legal advice because, again, from one jurisdiction to the next, the laws are going to be different. So this is why I always tell people, know what the law says, know what you can and cannot do. Yeah, absolutely. COVID has definitely made it worse. For landlords, it's a lot better for tenants, because I have a tenant, true story, I have a tenant who has not paid rent all year. Hasn't have they lost their job? Absolutely not. But they just stopped paying their rent because COVID. They knew that they could not pay their rent, and I couldn't take them to court. And so, fortunately for them, they were able to get renters assistance. And so if you are in an area where assistance is available, and you as a tenant, if you haven't paid your rent, or you as a landlord have tenants that have not paid their rent, please do some research. In DC and in many places, in DC, the Stay DC program is it is available. They are providing assistance through December. So I'm not sure if we have gone past the deadline for people to apply, but definitely do some research. Please Google COVID rental assistance in other areas. There's a program called ERAP, ERAP, that is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. It assists tenants with delinquent rent. It assists tenants with security deposit assistance. It also assists with first month's rent. So the ERAP program is available in a lot of states and a lot of cities. Here's one thing that I will share. It's not pertaining to insurance, but since I am talking about ERAP, if you are a landlord, okay, this is free information for you. It's free 99. It costs you absolutely nothing to hear what I'm saying. When you have a tenant that's coming to you for your vacants, okay, At the point of them being approved, please refer them to an agency to get assistance with that security deposit. That will save them money and it will save you time. At the point of a applicant being approved for a rental, again, let me repeat it. When you have a vacant apartment, a vacant house, a vacant condo, you have an applicant. They come, they say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, I would love to rent your place. At the point of you conducting the background check or not, and you approving them to rent that property, go ahead and provide them resources where they can go to get assistance to pay the security deposit. Okay. And it's also during that time where you tell them about the requirement to live in the rental property if they must have or strongly recommending renter's insurance. That's going to be important because when it's time to sign that lease, you don't want any delay because time is money. And I promise you that bricks and mortar don't pay rent. That means vacant property, don't put money in the bank. And so this is why I do what I do. I show landlords and owners how to attract quality tenants. I show them how to fill vacant units quickly and collect money each month like an ATM. That's what I do. All right. So Pearline, you said getting rental assistance and still not paying. Absolutely. Sometimes, Pearl, that makes our job as landlords a lot harder during COVID because some of these tenants, they are getting rental assistance and they're still not paying their rent, but there's assistance available. So I am recommending to all tenants who are not current on your rent, please get assistance because money is still available in the community. Look it up, Google it, whatever area you're in, look it up, look it up, look it up. Don't wait for somebody to reach out. Don't wait for a genie in a lamp. Don't wait for all this money to fall from the sky to just drop on your lap. Do some research. Okay. Do research as a tenant. Find out where the money is. I read a book a long time ago, Who Moved My Cheese? Listen, the money moves. Don't be depressed that the pot of money has dried up. There's another pot somewhere. There's another umbrella of resources that's available to help in many places. I can't speak that for all, but in many places, there are pots of money. If one area dries up, there's going to be another pot of money coming from somewhere. So don't be upset because the money, the cheese has moved. Just go to another place, find another pot of cheese, find another pot of money that can help you get you that money, get you the help that you need so that the landlord is not taking you to court to evict you. Because here's the thing, when you get an eviction on your credit report or on your public record, it is hard to get it off. And some landlords will not rent if you have been delinquent on your rent, if you have been evicted. Can a landlord take you with you having an eviction? Absolutely. But must they take you? Absolutely not. They must not take you. That's not a must. So let me just be clear on that. Okay, so you said it fails. You said it took over 4 months to receive ERAP money from PG, but that was a lot of calling council members and staff. And I'm glad that it happened. But see, here's the thing. Some people don't know that. I know that I have a buddy of mine now. They have been waiting probably longer than 4 months in PG, and still to this day, no calls, no emails to say anything is coming in. So the fact that you were able to get results, kudos to you. And sometimes, unfortunately or fortunately, that's what you must do to get what you need. And usually, here's what I tell tenants. And here's what I tell my students when I'm teaching. Usually it is the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So sometimes you got to make some noise to get what you need. Don't be afraid. Sylvia Davis, happy Monday. Do you have referrals for tenant landlord lawyers in DC? I absolutely do, Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis, do me a favor, send me an email. I'll send you 3 attorneys and their information in DC that can assist you because I know that you need some help. Pete, you said you love that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Absolutely, Pete, you get it. All right, fails. ERAP is paying rental and back utilities starting from April of 2020. Somebody needs to know that. It's not just the current month. They will go back to the beginning of the pandemic, and they will pay delinquent rent up through present. So please, if you're a delinquent as a tenant, please know that resources are available for you. Pete, you said another one is Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. I don't have that book, but I will definitely look it up. I love reading. I love learning. I love sharing information. And guys, again, this is what I do each and every Monday, right here on my Facebook or YouTube channel, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every week, I bring a different subject, a different topic to help landlords as well as tenants, because my goal is to educate the entire rental community. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. Please make sure that you are subscribing, that you have subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's the link there. Please find me on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, please like my Facebook page. Please like, please share this information, because sharing is caring. Don't just get this information and keep it for yourself. Get this information and share it with somebody else. All right. So let me just put my email address up here. And I thank you for joining me today. If you have questions, here's my email address. You can always email me. If I am not online, please email me. If you get a slow response, it's okay. I will respond eventually. Y'all know, many of y'all know, I do a lot. I still manage property. I still teach property management. I still coach. I still am the board chair. I still work with tenants. I do a lot when it comes to housing, because I am passionate about making a difference. This is my email address, karissaspann@gmail.com or karissa@dchpa.org. This is what I do each and every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do love and appreciate you all so much. Please tune in next Monday right here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.